My name is Peter Sekhonyane. I live in Orange Farms, 45 kilometers south of Johannesburg in South Africa. In the year 2008, we had a visitation from a gentleman from India who had come to speak to the churches in South Africa about the churches not using the power, complete and full power that God has given them, in not getting the children to participate in whatever the church is doing. I got convicted because I work in the tent. My ministry is that of the tent ministry. For 30 years, that has been my ministry. And I had seen hundreds and thousands of children flocking to the tents. And I was keeping them away from the tent, because those kids by that time were a menace to the tent. When they come away from school, they would come to the tent and play around the tent. Some would jump on top of the tent and slide down from the tent. Some of our tents were relatively high, 25 meters high. And the kids wouldn't mind that. They would be playing around the tent. When they got tired of doing that, they would then slash the ropes of the tent and cut the tent down. So we had to re-pitch the tent after the kids had broken the tent. So that's the reason why I was using somebody that I paid full time in keeping the children away from the tent. But when the gentleman from India came and addressed us about how useful those children can be in the church and in the ministry, I got convicted, and I made up my mind to start the children's ministry. On the 1st of April 2008, I started with the children's ministry in Orange Farms. We started with one main center in a place called Extension 1, where our main church is situated, with 286 children. To date, with the participation of other churches and other centers, starting in Orange Farms and outlying areas, we have 40 centers with over 11,000 children. In South Africa, we are into 5 provinces. Hopefully very soon we'll be in all of the 9 provinces that make up South Africa. Little did I know that a big lesson was waiting for me when taking up the children's ministry. All I knew then was that if I were to make an impact in the children's ministry, I have to move away from the Sunday school mentality. It has to be something unconventional. Something unconventional meant for me that we would have the children's ministry from Monday to Friday. So they were coming from 3 o'clock when they came from school, and they would stay up until 5:30. The first thing that I learned was that more than half of the children coming to the center came in hungry. They did not eat the whole day. Upon investigation, I realized that there were even something worse than that, because there were kids who claimed that they never ate for 3 days. And there were some kids from different areas who never knew one another, who told the story that for them to be able to live with their parents, they have to do what the parents were asking them to do. Every day they cannot return home without food that they begged from the streets. They would beg for food in the streets, and they would not eat the food there, but they would take the food to their homes so that they can share with their parents. On the days when there is no food given to them, they resorted to stealing. They would steal the washing on the line and sell that washing elsewhere. And they would steal the other kids' toys and sell them 3 blocks away so that they must have money to buy food to take home. Therefore, we realized that it is a must for us to begin to cook at least a warm meal for these kids. We started then cooking every day, weekdays, for these kids to have at least one warm meal before they go home. And very soon we ran out of supplies. But as we were gathering the kids primarily to teach them to pray, that was our first lessons, to teach the kids to pray that the Lord, who is the provider, would provide food for these kids so that we may be able to keep continuing giving them food. And the kids obliged, and they were praying heartily and sincerely that God would supply. And indeed, God answered their prayers, because very soon we had some people telling us that we can go to the markets in Johannesburg and they would give us the supply of food so that we can come and cook for the children. That is how then it started. But because children had prayed, we soon realized that we were getting more than what we had asked. After receiving food from the market, we would put aside the food for the whole week for the children. We would still have surplus. So then we decided that we are going to take the surplus and give it to the people nearby the church, those that we know that they are struggling to make ends meet. We did that for only 2 weeks. After the second week, I was at the market at 5 o'clock in the morning when I got a call from a lady who was helping me distribute and cook for these kids. She said to me, the church is full and overflowing with people that had come to the church. It was a Monday morning. I asked, why are they there? And she told me that they had come to ask for food because they heard that at this church we were giving out food. I was a bit angry because the food was not meant for the elderly people. The food was only meant for children. So my point was to come in and address those people that are in the church and chase them away. But somehow I delayed. The trucks got to the place before me, and the people that separated the food for the kids did that, and the remaining food they opened for the other crowds that was there so that they can pick their own according to their need. When I got there were only few of the leftovers, and there were about 3 women kneeling over a huge bathtub separating a rotten cabbage from a little cabbage that seems to be okay. And amongst those were a young lady, very stylish, strong, healthy. And I was wondering, why is she kneeling there and with her hands in the dirt trying to get fresh cabbage from the rotten one? I stepped forward and I called her and I asked her, why are you here and why are you doing this? She said to me, my mother is sick and nobody wants to take care of my mom, so I had to leave work and come to look after my mother so that she can get back on her feet. And there's nothing for her to eat. So I heard that at this church you are giving out food. So I had come to look for food. From that day I realized that God used the children, the very children that we are teaching to pray, God used them to open up an avenue whereby we can take care of the widows, the orphans, the poor and the needy, in supplying them with the hampers of vegetables. Since then, we have been doing that every week on Mondays. Trucks would go. Unfortunately, at the markets, the food ran out from the markets. So we had now to resort to buy our own food from the fields, fresh from the fields. So that's what we are doing every Monday, distributing vegetable hampers to two centers. Later did I realize that before we did that, at the main church we used to bury 2 grand ladies or 2 grandfathers. Every 2 months there would be a burial. We thought maybe it was something natural, it was something because they were old. But what surprised us is that as and when we started handing them over the vegetable hampers, the death rate declined. I'm sure it takes us even the whole year without us even burying one single old lady or one single old man. And upon investigation, we realized that previously, before we gave them the vegetable hampers, they were taking in their medication without food, which is detrimental to their health. So the death rate was the way it was before we started giving them food, because they were taking medication without their food. So we then realized that the prayers of the children helped a lot in terms of getting the other people that are needy to be able to receive food. Up until this day, that is what we are doing. And the other major answer to prayer was that we had to do a road show when we started now informing the other provinces in South Africa about the children ministry and how effective that children ministry can be. Teaching children to pray was the primary thing that we got into this ministry. But I soon realized the real reason why God wanted us to start the children ministry. Because when one teaches children to pray, no one can do that without the word, without teaching on the word. And it was my biggest surprise when we bought the Bibles for these children, because we wanted them to start to learn how to pray the word and pray successfully. We realized that the majority of them, when I say the majority, I mean up to 80% of them could not read and they could not write properly. And that was a big shock for me. Because if we wanted them to read out of their own Bibles, they were ashamed. No one was able to really make a fool of himself in front of the other kids. And they would soon disappear. So I brought in the teachers and we spoke with the teachers and realized that it's not only the challenge here at our children's center, but it was the challenge at the schools, at the public schools. Even the minister of our basic education appeared on television to say 86% of the children in grade 5, 6, and 7 were unable to read and to write. So then we prayed about it and we sensed that we need to train teachers who will be able to do remedial work to these kids. And we trained those teachers and they began now to use portions of their daily lessons in looking at their work, schoolwork, and in helping them wherever they were falling short. And that has improved the standard of the education of the kids that are only coming to our centers. We then felt that seeing that the children at the crèches, they are at the foundation whereby they need to be taught. The same way like we are teaching our kids here, we adopted 10 crèches, of which we train the teachers that we are sending out every day of the week to those crèches to put in the foundational lessons, to put in the foundational basic lessons of a child being ready to read and to write when he or she gets to grade 1. That is what we have been busy with now. And in the last 2 years, we have had reports from the schools where our kids are attending that we are having 100% passes. And the whole education system, in the perspective of our children in our centers, the standard has gone up. Even in the crèches whereby we are sending teachers, the crèches that we have adopted, where we are sending our teachers to train, in the last 2 years, at the schools where these children are going, the reports have been very favorable, that the kids get to grade 1 and they are already in the know as to how to read and to write. And the teachers are just amazed to see how these kids can hit the road running as and when they get to schools. And I would really love to thank God for sending the men from India to talk to us about our children, our valuable children, the children that we love, so that we can be able to teach them to pray, teach them the word, and even get involved in teaching them academically, so that we can strike that balance, the balance between academic and the balance between the issues of the spirit, that the child will grow up fully balanced and knowing how to react to certain situations. And we are happy to see that the seed that has been planted is growing. We can see the results. We hear the churches that are nearby where these children's centers are reporting an increased membership and increased attendance at those churches. And we are happy to hear that. And we are happy to receive testimonies from various parents to say how their kids have saved them from unemployment. They prayed for their fathers who were not working, and their fathers are working. Their mothers who were sick, they prayed for them, and their mothers got healed. I have just seen that chemistry that exists between God and children that no one else can explain. And I'm happy to realize that focusing on children, raising the children in the right manner, in accordance to the scripture that says, train a child in which way to go, so that when he's old, he cannot depart away from it. I can testify to that portion. I can testify to the truthfulness of that portion. I have seen that. I have experienced that, how these kids are now growing up. We are teaching kids from the ages of 2 to the ages of 14. But when they get to 15, 16, we are not throwing them away. We are taking them in and training them to become teachers. I don't have struggles when it comes to the teachers who teach these kids, because now the teachers are coming from the same program, they speak the same language. So now it's another generation that has been brought up by these children ministries. And for me, it looks like we're on the right track to bring about a generation that will love God, a generation that will trust God, a generation that will fear God, a generation that will bring an impact in every country, in every community, in every area of their lives, because these are Jesus' generation, and these are the kids that love the Lord, and these are the kids that have come to love the Lord. They've got stories to tell as to how they were, what they were before they came.
My name is Sekhonyane. I am a Royal Kid of South Africa. I'm here to do a testimony. Before I came to Royal Kids, I was disrespectful, and I didn't listen to my parents. I was stealing my mother's money. But I came to Royal Kids. I listened to my parents. I'm no longer stealing money, and I'm thankful to God for what He has done to my life. Amen.
My name is Kunim, and I'm here to do a testimony. Before I came to Royal Kids, I was a disrespecting child. I did not want to listen to my parents and do what is right. And before I came to Royal Kids, my mother was stolen at her right eye. So I came to Royal Kids, and now my mother is healed. I am very thankful to God in what He has done to my mother and in my life. Thank you.
My name is Nonda Kamsabni. Before I came to the Royal Kids, I was a silly child. I didn't want to go to church. When I go to church, me and my friends used to go at the back of the church to go and steal sugar canes. But since I came to Royal Kids, I now don't steal sugar canes because they've moved to another church. I'm thankful to Jesus. Amen.
I am indeed thankful unto the Lord for leading us to start the children ministry. I do not regret it one moment. I've seen the fruit. I've seen how these kids grow and are able to express themselves in the way that the Lord leads them. And I really want to say thank you unto the gentleman from India. And I also want to thank all those people who prayed for us when we started, when nobody wanted to hear anything about us and the children ministry, I want to say thank you. And those that are supporting us in prayers, in whatever way, thank you so much. It has made a huge difference in the lives of these children and in the lives of the communities where these children are coming from. For instance, from the churches that are nearby the centers, they are reporting every time that there's an increased number of attendance from the parents of these children. And I want to say thank you really for your prayers and for your support. And my heartfelt wish is that all my colleagues, pastors and children workers, if we would just hold hands and continue to focus on the children ministry, would bring a change, an impact to the communities, to the societies, and even to the countries, because these children have turned out to be so useful in the kingdom of God, so inspiring. But let me warn you that their faith is contagious. Once you work with them, there's no way that you are not going to end up thinking like them, speaking like them, and having faith like children, the same way that they have. But it is always so exciting to be able to think like a child and to play like a child and to pray like a child, because you seem to take God just like a child takes God. The child is open, the child is sincere, the child is always coming at any other time and is always available to do whatever is being required. We have learned that God can answer prayers. There's a change of lives in individual families. The parents are coming to the Lord in greater numbers than ever before because of their children's persuasions. And we see, even in our own township, the crime going down, the crime against children, abuse against children going down because of the prayers of the children. We can see even in the education system, their education level and their IQs improving ever since we started, and we just want to give praise and honor and glory unto God for that. And this is really inspiring to see that God can work through children. And it is true, we bear testimony to that. Since this is the calling of God upon my life to be able to raise these children, I realized when God began opening doors. We've got children ministry that we started in Egypt. We've got children ministry centers that have started in Brazil. When they heard the message, they got convicted and they began doing the same. It has virtually opened the doors. The Lord has virtually opened the doors for me to be able to minister to different countries, even in south part of Africa. This is where the churches are sending in people to come in to hear more about the children ministry, going back to their countries and to do the same. And I believe that this is the way of God to saying, this now is the time of the child. Remember again, the word says, train a child in which way to go, so that when he's old, he cannot depart away from it. And that statement is truth. I have seen it. I testify to that statement coming to life. And I really encourage anyone who's watching and listening to what I'm saying now, take courage, save the world, help the world, raise the children for the nations. Once and for all, thank you so much for your participation. May God richly bless you.